Right, boys and girls, welcome to another one of these. And it's all very exciting. And may I be the first to say, with some degree of sincerity, Frank out. We don't want you, you bastard. So, where are we? We are Paul O'Keefe, who tends to know things and is a good chap. Suggests that it's all over bar the compensation package and for Brentford. So, gentlemen, what do we think of that? Let's make our first point of reference there. Tony and Chris, what do you think of Thomas Frank?
Well, I will happily go on record, and this will probably come back and bite me in the arse severely, as it often does with us being Spurs and all that sort of thing.
Well, you were saying you would bum thumb before we started recording today, Tone. So why change a habit of a lifetime?
Well, I don't call it not so much bum thumb, more like teeth shattering. So.
Oh, don't. Chris, I was just telling you before we came on, I've got very few original teeth left in my head because the design fault I had to go and rectify. But one of them has cracked. I'm not in any pain, but it's just like you're eating and it feels like, it's just a bit weird.
Pegasus Airways tomorrow morning back to Istanbul, is it?
Yeah, I think so. I could do with a little bit of sunshine, and I just refuse to give the dentists in this country. Whoops, nearly in this country a penny. I refuse to give them a penny. So what was about to bite you in the bottom, Tony? Is it a new friend? You're out.
A gentleman never tells. I was extolling the virtues of Thomas Frank probably about September, October last year when things were going wrong. And I've said it consistently all the way through, even when there were naysayers out there and doubters. I've always said that I just think with what he's done at Brentford, considering the minuscule budget he's had to work with the resources he's had to work with. And that's not to say Brentford aren't a good club. They're a very good club. They're well run. They're disciplined. They've got a good fan base. There's a lot of good things about them, but and this is not meant to be disrespectful, and I really don't intend it to be, but they're only going to be at what they are right now. Then unless they get some sudden cash injection from somewhere else, they're only ever going to be where they are. And I just think when you look at the teams, the way the teams have played, look at the way he's developed the likes of Mbuemo, who was always a decent player, but has really come on leaps and bounds. You look at some of the signings he's brought in from like Denmark and maybe Norgard and things to these sort of players, and what's his who's the guy in the midfield, the bald guy from Denmark? I can't remember his name now, but he's just done some really good stuff in terms of he knows what he wants. He gets the pieces to fit, and then he gets them to play well. He gets them to play in the system, but he's adaptable. He's willing to change things. He makes substitutions when he needs to. And I've been a big fan of his for a long time, ever since I've watched Brentford in the Championship.
Sorry, I've just seen your AKA. You're on the screen. I should have asked you how you are. Have you got a cushion or something?
No, you were just too preoccupied with your teeth, weren't you? That's the problem.
So, Chris, we've just had an extract from Chris's "This Is Your Life" for Thomas Frank. What are your thoughts on the almost certainly our new gaffer?
He's 51 years of age. He's got considerable experience managing in the Premiership. He's adaptable. He will change the team to negate what the opposition do, which is a refreshing thing when we've got so used to 4-3-3 for God knows how long. But equally, he's worked wonders on shoestrings, and it may be that the shoestring gets cut and released moving forward. But at the moment, we are where we are. And the best players, the best coaches, from a CV perspective, Jose and Conte, we never provided them the tools to do the job. So if this guy could come in and bring some new philosophies, some new ideas, then what's there not to like? You get all these pathetic men children starting campaigns, no to Frank on social media. And all of these
is it actually a thing?
Yeah. And how can you how can you replace a winner with a guy who's been in the Premiership for 7 years and he's only ever got them to 13th? Well, let's go back a number of years to when a guy called Maurizio Pochettino arrived at Tottenham. Where did he come from? A club called Southampton, who were notoriously yo-yoing between the Premiership and the Championship. What we saw there is nobody had ever heard of, but we brought him in, embraced his football ideologies and concepts, and he went on to be one of our most loved managers of recent years. Without covering old ground, if you're prepared to give Ange the chance that you have, then you've most certainly got to give this bloke a chance, and writing him off before he's even got here is shameful and pathetic. So
guess what?
With open arms.
It's incredibly hypocritical, Chris, isn't it? You're absolutely spot on. The hypocrisy at the moment is off the charts with the Ange sexuals, because everybody was screaming that we've got to give him a chance, we've got to give him a chance, we've got to give him a chance. They're dumping this guy before he's even got in the door. I mean, I'm
hearing all of these people saying, "Oh, what would you have rather finished fourth and not won anything?" Or, well, actually, I'd like us to do both things, and there's no reason a good quality, well-managed and organised side can't compete on multiple fronts. So it was an excuse that too many people jumped on, but it was for his own admissions that ultimately cost himself his job, because the hackles and the alarm bells were ringing.
The two thoughts in the head at the same time, isn't it, H? It's the two thoughts in the head at the same time scenario.
This is precisely it. So, I mean, some of you, I got to be careful what I say, of course, but some of these people, I mean, the problem is you ask somebody a question and they want you to give them the answer that they have in their head. They're like a really crap, magician. Is this the card you were thinking of? Nine of clubs, and they push that. And if you don't give them the correct answer, they then ask you another question, and they'll keep going till they die. And that's the level of intelligence you're dealing with. Just a very brief mention on the Ange sexuals. Having spoken to that chap in Australia, and I might be repeating myself, but I don't care because it's relevant. These people, an average game, a 3 o'clock game is midnight, and a later kickoff is 5 a.m. in our time. So they're not even watching the game after they've had a couple of beers and then going to work, because you can't do that. So they're watching on catch up, or, as was suggested to me by the guy that I spoke to, David from the Grumpy Old Men podcast, what they're actually doing is they're watching the flipping highlights. Yeah, go Ange. Look at that. We've won a cup. Never had a night like it in my life. Your opinion is no good. You're unreliable witnesses. And so my heart lies, and my sorrows lie with and this isn't normally my shtick. My shtick is normally to attack season ticket holders, because with the exception of people like Chris, they tend not to be tremendously interesting. But my heart bleeds for the poor feckers that have had to shell out 2 or 3 grand for a season ticket and then commute for most of the day, is wiped out, getting to the bloody stadium to watching a football team, which he's finding it a little bit difficult. And he's only capable of beating a dozen sides in one of the worst competitions in Europe, where everybody was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 1. So thanks very much for the cup. But you must draw a line under this at some point. I don't want to keep hearing about this guy. And I wonder if, in actual fact, because Levy's no fool, if he didn't wrap this up so we didn't get any momentum added to this campaign. And the idea that you give Thomas Frank strikes me as an immensely reliable, grounded guy. And what we're not going to get is we're going to get a surly know-it-all. I've got a secret thing written down on a bit of paper and I've got the magical... Not interested in all that garbage. I want a guy who can make decent substitutions. I can get a guy who can spend money sanely. I mean, we're looking at Mabueno there. He's not going to come to us. He wants to go to Manchester United. And that's an obscenity. He's I've just want to get it out of the way while I'm here. 45 million bid was apparently put in by Man United, and they've been told to come back with 50 plus 10 in add-ons. But Spurs are more interested in getting these little dancing queens like Brennan Johnson, who simply aren't cut out for the Premier League. And hopefully this guy instills a bit of, oomph.
There's 2 things that came out of that decision for me on Friday. we will never be Daniel Levy's fans, but Daniel Levy did the absolute right thing on this occasion. He would have been criticised if he didn't, but he's got to act in the interests of the football club. And the interests tell you this bloke carries far too much risk to allow him another season at this, when we lost millions and millions and millions of pounds between the difference between 14th and 17th last season.
The other thing as well, Chris, as well, is and you know, because you're the guy that mentioned it on this channel, is the reputational damage caused by that fat chunk of change. I mean, I've got no respect for him whatsoever. Yes, thank you for the trophy. Now go. And I think Daniel pulling the plug, switch this guy's life support system off. So we've got all these, quite frankly, grumpy Australians wandering around, and you only have to look online. I promise you, like I said, got involvement in some Facebook pages now. Every single person that I've seen banging the Ange this, Ange that drum. I wonder where you live. Click on their profile. The profiles are either locked, which is something I wasn't even aware you could do because I'm not 5. The profiles are locked, or New South Wales, Victoria, Adelaide, Ramsey Street, all the same. And the idea that these, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're allowed to have an opinion, okay? Everybody's allowed to have an opinion. But if you're Australian, you're going to need to really explain yourself, because finishing 19th or whatever it was in the not 19th, 17th in the division, and basically, as he implied or inferred, throwing Premier League games, just not acceptable. It wouldn't be acceptable if they were free. But people are paying to go and see the club play, and we're being used, as I say, like a urinal by Paddy Power.
I would like to know, of all the people that have said they were happy that he threw the league and that we won the Europa League, how many of them are season ticket holders? Because I bet you there aren't any of them season ticket holders. Because if I was a season ticket holder, I would not be happy with that at all.
I walked out of every game last season thinking there's better things to be doing with my life than wasting it on this shit. There was not one game I went last season. Bear in mind, it was like maybe £250 a game for me to get there. And you think there's better ways of spending money than watching that rubbish. There was So
you're telling us it's £250 to watch the game live? But
when you think about the cost of the ticket, probably £80-90 when you're talking about the £30-40 two ways on the train, then the obligatory 26 pints of lager, a couple of beef burgers,
bag of Charlie.
If you go, aren't you? Go hard or go home.
half an ounce of MDMA.
Yeah,
which you were driven to by Angie's fair hands.
Thank God for the ketamine, or I might have remembered some of those past experiences.
Yeah, just get into a K-hole. That's what we recommend to all our fans.
Well, I just wish the team had gone hard or gone home, mate, because that's the last thing they did.
Yeah. I mean, but the idea, it's risible. It doesn't stand up to any scrutiny whatsoever. That you got a man here, this bleeding heart, does £250 in cold blood. Is supposed to have an argument with some clown the other side of the planet who's watching the highlights. Who wants to tell him what to do?
Even this side of the planet as well, H, because there's people who think it was a great idea to throw the league, which is horribly disingenuous to all those hardworking fans who have paid their money.
And Chris.
And Chris, yeah. But you think about it, all those thousands of fans that have gone to go regularly to all the games all throughout the years, still buying their season tickets at ridiculously inflated prices, to watch. Not only is it okay, you win a trophy, fantastic, but in those 2 years, we have gone from started to play football. Okay, it all went off. We know the whole story, but it's a question of, have we improved in that time? We improved by winning a trophy, but as a team playing football and being competitive and the players getting better, have we improved? And the answer is an emphatic, absolutely bloody not.
The football in the main, and I mean, bar those first 10 games before he got found out, because that's what happens to people. They get found out. The joy tap gets turned off. Beyond those 10 games, Spurs were horrible to watch. And it particularly annoyed me that the same people, and because I love a Venn diagram, but the same people who were telling us how good Ange was, despite the fact that people were throwing themselves under buses as they came out the stadium because they were just suicidal because the football was unwatchable. These are the same people who were telling you that Tony Conte and Jose Mourinho were nasty people and the football was horrible. These people aren't important enough to call them worthless. Absolute dandruff, a lot of them.
One organisation I do take offence to, and I think you're just a bunch of chumps, are the Change for Tottenham organisation, who, if you believed it, was single-handedly responsible for getting a probably multi-millionaire businesswoman, Donna Cullen, to stand down from her position.
That was extraordinary.
The reality is she retired. And then and they'll be the first ones having a pop at Levy for getting rid of Ange. But guess what? If he'd have kept him and we'd have got relegated, whose fault would it have been then?
Well, these people are children. I mean, I made the mistake because I didn't realise that the IQ point in that organisation was only in double digits. But I made the mistake of saying, fair dues. Everybody's late to the party, but we're sick of hearing that message. So, this looks like a meaningful operation. They got shoes on the pavement, great, fantastic, well done. But who is doing your communications for you? Some cretin.
A 5-year-old.
Some cretin. We got rid of Donna Cullen. I mean, they're trying to take credit for rain. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
How long has Donna Cullen been on the board of Spurs and throughout all the screaming?
22 years.
Exactly. And through all that time, apart from obviously recently with the lack of success, has she given one tinker's cuss of what the Spurs fans have thought about her or about Levy, about anybody? Of course not. So for them to turn around and say that, the statement from Cullen was really telling in two things. And we said one of these we said already: never believe anything until it's been officially denied. And secondly, the second rule of politics is when you say things like "I want to spend more time with my family," that means someone told you get the hell out of there.
Yeah, just pinged you both a message incidentally in the message.
Oh, right. Do I need to get out of my building? Is there a fire?
No. Ooh, really? I've heard similar, but obviously not from such as a reliable a source as your good self. Good man.
My phone has gone into dial-up mode.
Go on, Chris, you can tell him.
Don't forget to buy Apple products, kids. They're really, really good.
Just I'm a Samsung man myself.
Yeah, you and I both, Tony. I like to be out of the norm.
Yeah, that's right. We're revolutionaries. We're revolutionaries, Chris, aren't we?
Yeah.
We realise. Oh right, okay.
We're on the last moped out of nowhere city. That's what it is with us.
Moped. Well, the good news we're just being told there by a mysterious source, aka the gentleman to the lower portion of the screen, is that Frank is the Spurs manager. Should be announced tomorrow. So. But the business of Frank, I think it's a no-brainer. I think he is a reactionary coach as well. He makes tactical changes, as you said there, and the idea that you give him any stick after the last guy. I mean, but the trouble is, and I've been saying this for years because I'm a nasty piece of work. Don't lose sight of that, kids. But too many football fans don't really know what they're watching. Absolutely clueless. So this is a great opportunity for us to just remind everybody of that. So anybody shouting Thomas Frank out at this stage, it needs to go and see their GP because you can get tablets for that.
Can we just have a counselling session for the players whose basically vaginas have popped out and are going on about how much they're going to miss dear old Ange, and he's an inspiration, blah 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 blah. Honestly, it just get, for God's sake, you are grown men. You're being paid £200,000 a week. Get a grip. Seriously,
it's only a shame they didn't try and show that loyalty and determination and passion for him when they put him on the Spurs shirts to play for him.
Well, the other curious thing as well is that I think, but this is the thing. You see, footballers aren't very bright. We've covered that at length, but now we've got them wanting to jump onto the happy bus because they need love. The narcissist in them is, they can't just survive on the Louis Vuitton assistant telling them how butch they look in their new jeans or trainers or whatever it is. They need more. They need more love all the time. But I'm curious, coming from James Maddison, who's been one of these lady parts that's been coming out with this stuff, because didn't we have the audio? Because he didn't put his hand over his mouth, and there was him and Sonny sitting there, and he's just going, always the same, and he was slagging off the tactics. So all this business, and the sources we had for the discontent in the club as well. Players don't want to be associated with that at all because it doesn't serve them well as an anecdote. But
yeah, what was it? Madison said, apparently, wasn't it? There was that comment, wasn't it, during one of the love-ins they had together? Wasn't it about stop being a showboating pony, and then Madison Torres said better being a one-trick pony.
Yeah. All of this stuff came from decent places, and I honestly, you got guys who get their hair cut 2 or 3 times a week. You're not dealing with the finest minds. You're really not. So yeah, good luck with that, and I'm sure lots of soppy Spurs fans will join you in having a virtue signalling cuddle.
I'm going to start a crowdfunding for them, guys. Let's start a crowdfund for them for a bit of therapy, shall we, and a bit of love.
Yeah, let's send a crowd round to their houses.
Having listened to all the recent accolades and sorrow, I'm just waiting for our wingers to come out. The lad that he never played, the kid, what's his name, Mikey Moore. I'm just waiting for Mikey Moore's thanks, boss. It was an absolute pleasure. I think the silence is more telling than than actually saying something, isn't it? When you've got all these other players going on about, oh, we're going to miss you, Gaffer, you've done so much, blah blah blah. First of all, can't see any of that. Where was all of that on the pitch, like you just said?
Never.
But secondly,
never.
What you don't say is telling us what you do say.
So we've got good news there that the new guy's in, that we've got fun time Franky at the helm. So we've got some other good news in that the ITK that I bored everybody with recently has taken on a bit of a spin, because I came out, if you remember, and said that there was a non-Saudi, non-Middle East interest in Tottenham. And Chris, do you want to share with the crew?
So, yeah, I'm not going to say it's ITK, but very recently I spent a couple of weeks over in Kuala Lumpur on a business trip. Whilst I was there, struck up some good friendships with some very prominent businessmen. One reached out to me via message on Sunday and told me that Malaysian investors who own the Petroleum Tower, Malaysia, a massive country for petroleum manufacture, were talking to Levy about a full takeover in the value of 4.5 billion, which would see him completely removed from anything to do with the club.
Which is tremendous news, because we don't want anything. We don't want a handover process. We want them to bring in their own executives. And I think one of the problems that we ran into, and again, it's down to the infantilization of everything, and it's the fact that you can't have separate thoughts and all the rest of it. Donna Cullen leaving, it's like, what was that thing? Was it the ballpoint pen was invented just before the Second World War, the First World War? That's a coincidence. One wasn't a catalyst for the other. So this is Donna Cullen leaves because she's at the age of when a really wealthy person probably wants to retire anyway, and spend more time with her family, and so that doesn't mean there's a buyer outside. And I think a lot of people, I'm haranguing everybody here, but I'm just a little bit tired with all of this dumbness that we have to fight every day. It's football. It's supposed to be enjoyable. I mean, I've noticed Frank Ball was a headline that hit me on a Reddit page or something this morning. Please stop it. Just stop it. Let's see him play with our players, because whatever he's done at Brentford is wonderful, but he's not bringing his team with him. But yeah, so the business with Malaysia, I think, is potentially very exciting. And this is exactly what my guy was talking about, who didn't want to reveal the specific area or region that the interest was in. And I spoke to him this morning, and he said, yeah, they're pretty confident it's going to go ahead. Now, until it's done, it ain't done. I do understand that, but it would be ideal for us. Hopefully, they wouldn't be horrible people, but only time will tell us that. Only time will tell us that.
Let's hope they've got football in mind as opposed to anything else. So that would be the key, wouldn't it? Because I mean, you're spending that amount of money, you're going to want something in return, aren't you? So,
well, this is the other thing. People again. Why is he being horrible to everybody? Can't you just be friends? You know, you need to look up words like ultra. I need to be able to pronounce the word to help.
Get your teeth in. Get your teeth in.
Get your teeth out. But they're not likely to do anything altruistic. This is not a goodwill envoy from Kuala Lumpur. These people are doing this to make money. So it will be interesting to see what the strategy is. But they've got to be able to read the room, and they've got to be in a mindset that they want to invest and make the brand successful and get rid of all the reputational damage that's gone on and make us a force so we can command big bucks from advertisers, get naming rights sorted, all these things, but make football the number one thing. Yeah, sure. I get it. I understand the Beyonce thing. I understand the Guns N' Roses thing. I understand the Formula One thing. But we're football fans. By all means, moonlight and do other stuff. I totally support that. But I'm sick of hearing about Beyonce and all the rest of it while we're struggling to get a tune out of footballers that we spend a ton of money on. And it just isn't right. So hopefully a combination of Frank, he gets briefed with the money that's coming in, and he gets some money to spend because he'll spend it wisely, because that's been his career to date. That was the other thing with Ange. I just thought he was a bit of a lottery winner with the money.
I mean, here you go. You deep dive on Petronas, Malaysian multinational oil and gas company established in 1974. Net income 17.15 billion. Total assets 164.4 billion, and revenue last year US 73.1 billion. So you're talking massive numbers there. You're talking
huge telephone numbers.
And what sort of raises suspicions further are, no disrespect, and I don't want to be labelled the nastiest man on the planet, but who really cares about
that's my job.
Who really cares about female football? And what care do we have about Tottenham's female side? Interestingly, we've got rid of the manager from the female side as well. And when you think about revenue and the reputation and the image of the club, they're getting rid of everybody, aren't they? They've got rid of the first team coach. They've got rid of the female coach. They've got rid of Ryan Mason. Scott Munn's supposedly on his way out. You've got rid of Donna Marie Cullen. So there's 5 people that have all gone, as well as all of the ineffective backroom staff of Ange that none of us will lose a minute's sleep over. They've all gone. So the only two who
clearing of the decks.
The only two who remain are Matt Wells and the goalkeeper, Rob, whatever his name is.
Well, the two that remain have modest but effective CVs.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a difficult task identifying these other half-wits that Ange had wrapped around him, but I think that it's problematic, to use that horrible word. But people are going to be blindsided by this trophy forever. But this is a guy who, his legacy, he talks about winning that trophy. Fantastic, well done. Now let's talk about Dominic Solanke and Richarlison as your main striking force. Please, so, were you down the pub? Were you down the pub when you agreed to take those two?
Let's talk about the 22 games you lost in the season, last season. Let's talk about the 78 points from 66 games. Let's talk about you having the worst win ratio of all Spurs managers in the Premier League history.
Ever.
yeah, you know, and, there's more where that came from, so to speak. And
41. What was it? 41% win rate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I get, yes, we won a trophy, but that in itself is not a justification for keeping him on. And that's what everybody seems to be hanging on to, is that, oh, well, he won a trophy. How would, and then, like you said earlier, you've got this stupid nonsense about, but he's just won a trophy. would you rather have would you rather have fourth place and no try? That's not. They're not the same question. They're not the same thing.
But that's what I said. They want to guide you into giving them the answer they've got in their head. Like I said, they're like a really crap magician.
Yeah.
Is this the card you thought? No, mate, I'm not playing. Was this the card you thought of? No. Go away. You're not very good at this.
I would happily have had Ange continue if we could see a definite pattern of progress. And what people might say, a trophy is progress. No, a trophy is a one-off. Progress is consistently getting better, getting your players better, playing better football, becoming hard to beat, becoming more successful, elevating, going further up the league tables, not free falling into a pit of oblivion. If it weren't for the three teams that were below us, we'd have been absolutely. We were in a relegate. We would have been relegated. 38 points in a lot of Premier League seasons would have got you relegated.
No.
Sorry.
We broke this 22 losses. That's only half of it. Turn to your list. The 22. That was a record-breaking season of shiteness for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, but it was also a record-breaking season of shiteness for the Premier League, because up until that point in the history of this division, losing 22 games, you got the bullet. You got relegated. So he is a drunk driver who managed to not kill the child but snatch the trophy out of a dustbin. And it just isn't good enough. It just isn't good enough. And whatever you want me to say, those of you out there foaming at the mouth, whatever you want me to say, I'm not going to say it. I'll say what I think. I think he won us a trophy, but it wasn't good enough.
But you've still morons with the audacity to think that we are champions of Europe.
Which is we're not champions of Europe. We're winners of a competition. That's why the bus had winners written on it. Who do you think PSG are?
You're only true champions.
Correct, because they're the top flight. And this is for those of you who want to see it live. And I wonder if the Australians in the audience are going to stay up late for this. Oh no, I didn't get a chance, mate. I had a bit of work in the morning. PSG in the Super Cup. Good luck with that.
Well,
good luck with that. They're 1-6 on.
Chelsea's invested about £2 billion to win a trophy, which is so pitiful you couldn't even drink out of it, and they quickly forget about it, and it's back to normality. Can you imagine? We'd have open top bus parades. We'd be waxing lyrical about it. We need to get back to reality. Yes, it was good. We enjoyed it. It was a nice night, but we've got to focus and aim for better.
The nice night is going to come home to roost, and you can't just say, "Oh I didn't get around to watching whatever codswallop excuse you've got." PSG versus Spurs in the Super Cup. Have a taste of reality. There's 90 minutes of reality for you.
I would much prefer us facing them under Frank than I would have the high line of Ange. Can you imagine the hamstring injuries when you've got Doué, you've got Kravatska, you've got Odson Edouard or whatever his name is, and you've got all their pacey, powerful players. We'd have got torn a new one.
They're only half a dozen spots away from us in the Deloitte Money League. This is the other thing that nobody wants to talk about. This isn't. They're not on another planet football wise. I think the club is worth. I think it's a little under or a little over 200 million quid more than ours. Or 200 billion or whatever it is, the numbers are on the Deloitte Money League. They're in the same neighbourhood. And we are going to be lambs to the slaughter at that game. And when we go to the Champions League, we're going to be coming back very, very quickly. Because all of the stupid decisions that Fatso made have a thing called consequences.
Yeah, and for all those murmurings and discontent you hear from the likes of Romero, Bentancur, well, piss off. Thanks for your service. Enjoy the future. But you're not Tottenham greats. You're not Tottenham legends. And Romero, if you can get 60, 70 million pounds for him, he's easily replaceable.
This word legend, I have an issue. I have an issue with this word legend.
No name on the back of the shirt is ever bigger than that crest on the front of it. And that's what people have got to remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
This word legend, mate. I have a real issue with this word legend.
We've been called legend once or twice.
Mate, was it Gary Delaney? I don't know if you know that comedian Gary Delaney, the one who does all the one-liners. He said, the legend has now been relegated to someone bringing home a packet of crisps unexpectedly.
Yeah.
It's about the size of it, isn't it? It's about the size of it.
Again, Tony,
It's a word that's just chucked around.
It boils down to we've weakened down and we've reduced what legend means, because there's too many youngsters who haven't had the opportunity to see Hoddles, Waddles, Gascoigne, Ginolas. They haven't Berbatovs. They haven't had the opportunity to see truly great players.
It's also
pick up any bit of junk. They start using the word. Oh, what's the word that they all love?
Baller.
Baller. And
let him cook.
Generational talent. That's the one that really
generational talent.
And you're thinking, give them 4 or 5 seasons doing this continually, and then you might be able to talk. But people get too reactive, too excited, too quickly, too soon.
You know the young lad who does the Spurs play interview, who's constantly like he could take him to a funeral and he'd cheer everybody up. He hasn't got a negative bone in his body, which appears to be the default setting for people these days because they don't think about anything and they're all focusing.
Christ, he wouldn't last 5 minutes on this podcast, would he then?
Set fire to himself. But he turned around to Vicario, who of course has got all the self-awareness of a young Italian kid on a couple of million quid a month, and said to him, "Yeah, you've become a bit of a legend amongst the Spurs fans. This is the clown who let all the bloody goals in."
Yeah, and
it depends what you mean by a legend.
Yeah, you are a legend, but for all the wrong reasons.
Well, the thing is, this comes also down to now how, and I've noticed this amongst the fan bases, especially with the people who want Ange in, is that they're so desperate for any sort of, because we've been starved of any form of success, anything suddenly gets elevated well beyond what it really actually means. For, you look at, people who win the Premier League, Liverpool. When Liverpool won the Premier League, he's already speaking about the Champions League. He's already saying, right, we've got to be more competitive in that next, better than that. We've got to do better than what we did last season. Yeah. And that's what winners do. Winners actually go, yeah, that's great, we won that, but now we've got to move on and we've got to go upwards again, and we've got to kick on and get hard and get better.
It's about strength.
And we don't do that. We're just
in what you did
absolutely.
last.
We've been so starved of success that any crumb of success is just jumped on like it's the fishes and the loaves, isn't it? The five loaves and 2 fishes sort of scenario, or 2 loaves and 5 fish, whatever it was, whichever when it was,
Well, it just reminds. I mean, success at Spurs is so bad. It reminds me of that line in Buster when he says one of them says to me he's got a bit of work lined up. He said, "I've been on one of your jobs before." He said, promise the world, and by the time you get your cut out of it, you've got enough for 2 fish suppers. Because you're so excited that you don't do the bloody maths. And I would seriously. I know I'm shouting into the night air here, but I would seriously recommend. To these Malaysians or anybody else that is looking at Spurs, get rid of all of this junk. Get rid of the propaganda machine that doesn't work because we're not stupid. I mean, if you were really clever, you get. I mean, look, there's 3 of us sat around this thing. I don't spend a shilling with them. I can't do it out of principle. Chris is a fully paid up international corporate superstar, and this other lunatic turns up to watch games that aren't even being played in the stadium on a big TV set because he's having a nice time. And
well, you mean true? You mean true fans? That's what you mean, the true
fans, rock and roll fans. But they need to win people like me round, and all the other people that have handed their season tickets back in. And because I should be paying my way. And also, they need to feed us. Because I say this as a publisher and a content maker, God help me. Never has it been so bad under this absolute toss. I mean, I tell you what, I'm not buying any statistics for this season because I didn't get to use them. Nobody gave a damn. There's your full story. We lost. Again. I couldn't give away. Yeah, I couldn't give away articles. Yeah. My traffic has improved marginally since we've got rid of Fatso because he is morbidly obese. So I'm allowed to say that. It's not rude. He is overweight. My traffic has modestly improved, and now we need to build upon that, and we need to back this guy who is actually a proper qualified football coach. You know, all this fuzzy thinking and this stupidity that I'm having to fight every single day with stupid headlines and calling people who aren't even fit to be wearing a shirt a legend. It just has to stop. It has to stop. Spurs are a massive club, but most of that is in our minds. It doesn't stand up to any scrutiny. We're doing tremendous work in terms of disguising the true state of play. But then you get to the reality when you hire a complete and utter unqualified competition winner when you finish 17th. That's the true picture.
I'm just curious now. Now that we're
curious to know when your internet's coming back.
All the sincerity I can possibly muster. All the sincerity I can possibly muster that we'll have lose our Australian brethren, and that does sadden me to the hilt. Whether we're suddenly going to have an influx of Danish supporters, now. So,
well, do you know? I welcome them all. I mean, Liverpool has a great gangs of fans from different places. Bring them all in. But don't tell me it's raining when it's not. It's a bookmaker whittling down my back. This is about I know it's a bit repetitive, but all of this shite has to stop. Let the intelligence back in. Let me put out articles that aren't full of guano that people want to click on so I can get paid. Nobody's been paid last season. Let me tell you, nobody's been paid. I've never seen so many articles flooding news now and all the other aggregators because people were absolutely desperate to try and get some traffic over the door. And it's been bad for sport. It's been bad for football, but it has been worst of all for Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, I think you can argue. I think you can absolutely make a very strong argument. In fact, I would say that intelligence, I think, is almost guaranteed with Thomas Frank because he's very articulate. Yeah, he's very knowledgeable. He's got a really good football head on his shoulders. He's
correct.
I've watched Brentford for a long time since when they're a championship because they spent a couple of seasons in the championship when they got promoted. So I've actually followed them as like a third or fourth club because of that. And they have just got progressively better and better and better and better, which is what we want to see from our club. Which is the reason why Ange eventually got sacked. The board, as we said, has took the right decision. They haven't worried about sentiment. They got, well, you won us a trophy, but by God, we're getting worse. So therefore, you have to go.
Just look at that link I've just posted you both via Paul O'Keefe, and that is astounding. If that is in fact true.
Was that the first one with that picture, or the second one?
Was that the woman with her bottom against the wall?
Well, yeah, I just think.
So, right. Yeah, well, yeah, I actually did watch that this morning. Gee, that's very nice. Where is that wall?
Just down the road from my house.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, it hasn't got any graffiti on it. There's no burnt out motorbike led against it. So Daniel Levy didn't want to hire Ange Postecoglou initially. It was Scott Munn's pick.
Yeah.
And Levy needed to be convinced.
One Australian wants to have life for another Australian. Who would have thought?
I'm sorry, I'm not convinced of that. That doesn't seem right to me because we know Baldy's an absolute control freak. For him to be convinced.
Yeah. Didn't we get an article come out from some guano peddler that there was going to be 300 million available to spend on players?
How do you come up with that figure? And equally,
total fiction.
Yes, we have got hundreds of millions. Why we get tell anybody? Because it inflates the price of any purchase you want to make up.
But this is, you see, the trouble is the audience for this tut don't care because they're stupid. So a bit of mathematics, we made 41 million by winning that bloody pot, but that's before Daniel has his deductions. Do you think we got a local bus with a young person's rail card to all these games?
It's going to cost us somewhere in the region of 10 million to get rid of Ange and to bring in Thomas Frank.
Yeah, well, it's going to cost 10. It's going to probably cost 10 to pay off Brentford.
9 million for Frank and his coaching network to release.
But when you think about that, though, may only be 10 million sounds like a lot of money, but that's only 5 or 6 places up from where we were last season.
Well, that's 5 Saturdays at the Tottenham Stadium with the beers flying, isn't it?
Well, it is with you. You ketamine fiend, you.
Get out of your K-hole, man. There's people suffering on the streets here. Chris B, who did 27 grand on getting home from the football matches, spoke candidly to the press.
Yeah.
This is Chris B going up to police horses and smacking him in the mouth.
And that's before a ball's been kicked. That's on the way to the game.
Why, mate? Why the long face?
The old ones are the best time.
Mate, they never go out of fashion, mate. They never go out of fashion.
I've seen him in action in his local chicken shop. Go get my BT toothless cunt.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by CB. Yeah.
That's the funniest thing, most brutal thing I've ever witnessed in my life, and I was in Nam. But yes. So we've got ideally then we've got a really chummy coach coming in who can read and write and won't cough and stare at his feet. And hopefully
we've already given him an early present. We've said, welcome to Tottenham. Here's Ben Davis for another 12 months.
Here's Ben Davis, and you don't even have to unwrap him. He's just as nature intended.
It's a new signing. It's a new signing, chaps. It's a new signing.
He's just. Are you wondering what that smell is? I can see the look on your face. He's just braising some leeks for you, part of his celebration parade when he's going to be unveiled in the centre circle. Dear Lord, yeah, it's great news. Ben Davis is still around. Such a loyal servant. I thought slavery had been abolished, but no, we've got a servant. Brilliant, fantastic. Every home should have one.
When you say loyal servant, I mean, again, loyal servant, no. Nobody else wants him. That's why he's staying.
Yeah. Not one inquiry from any other club in the world.
There's two schools of thought to me. One, I say he is a model pro. He's never rocked the boat. Is he any harm in staying? I would suggest not. But when you look at it on the other side, you think if we're going to be ambitious, if we're going to start a new project, we need to clear the decks and go again. So there's one I'm not going to lose too much sleep over.
Well, unsurprisingly, I'm going to quote Stalin and say, if you remove the man,
here we go.
If you remove the man, you remove the problem.
I'd much sooner see the back of Bissouma and players.
Richarlison,
Bissouma. Those players that have been with us a year and a day and are not going to get any better. We need this guy to come in with new visions and new ideas, not trying to recycle and get somebody who's brain damaged, who's been listening to the dross of Ange for 18 months and trying to teach an old dog new tricks. It's just not going to work.
A new dog, old tricks.
It's almost like trying to say, accusing someone of being altruistic, but not being able to pronounce it.
Yeah, that's what happens with that ketamine.
I honestly though, I sincerely hope that if these Malaysians come in, and I hope they come in because I don't joke about things. I would prefer a Bond villain was running us. Somebody who harvests body parts from children would be better than
you look at if that happens, and we don't know if it will. We're just talking about it, but automatically it makes Tottenham the biggest club in Asia, and Malaysia is an absolutely colossal country with massive amounts of wealth, very modern, very efficient, very technological,
very forward-looking, forward-looking.
Yeah, and you think our most lucrative market was predominantly Southeast Asia with South Korea. If they get it right, they could do what they wanted.
Yeah, absolutely, and do so with our blessings. God help them.
Did you hear all these murmurings? We heard the American murmuring. We don't want the Americans, nice people, but they're not healthy, reliable business owners, which Hicks and Gillette proved at Liverpool. And look at the Glaziers at Man United. They hate them. They're absolutely running that ground into the club.
I think you're right. And I also think, bearing in mind what you've said about your ITK, a lot of this clearing of the decks has to be because of this is going on. It's a way of showing that we're making ourselves more attractive by getting rid of the people that have been the problem. and saying
Well,
that
what they're doing effectively is that they're taking the sting, and this is an unusual step for Enid, but they're taking the sting out of the aftermath, the hangover of the takeover, when they suddenly come in and say, okay, everybody who's on the first floor, you're fine. Everybody above, you don't work here anymore. You know, steak knives for everybody. Because you want the takeover process to get rid of the chaff before the new people come in. You know, you don't want to wander around sacking people en masse. That's not a good, because that was one of the things that Elon Musk did. Twitter was well overdue a clear out of all these lefty idiots. But the vibe it created was very, very, very aggressive, and it gave fuel, gave ammunition to people setting up, the Blue Sky and these other things. So I think you need to come in, but that was a vanity project. This is less of a vanity project, because this is what I say. It's not all altruism. They're going to want to make money, because this is going to cost a fortune. You know, it's not pocket change. This is massive money. And I joked on one of the videos earlier, one of the shorts or reels, and said, people are going to say, oh, it's not enough or whatever. This is the real world. And just as serious as 3 billion or whatever it might be, they're going to want 10 billion back. You know, that's how it works. They're not going to be like the Salvation Army. You know,
no, absolutely. But what they do understand as hardcore business is that sometimes you actually have to speculate to accumulate as well. Whereas Levy has never been prepared to do that. He's never been prepared to speculate to accumulate. So spend a bit of money to make more money.
Do you know that? I mean, people need praise like they need air, and no more so than the Enoch and Levy apologists. In the entire duration of them having been here, which is over 25 years now, whatever it is, they've literally only parted with about 128 million quid of their own money.
Put minimal money in. Yeah,
it's absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. A round of applause for Daniel Levy, because he's likely to be able to make, candy floss out of sugar. It's like a magic thing, and suddenly the stick is full of this big, lovely. But that's what he's done, and it is about leverage and manipulation, and that's why his big business partner that he used to have was done for insider trading, because that's the way they operate. Those are the levels in which they operate.
So effectively, 5.2 million pounds per year.
Yeah, not bad.
Next to nothing. Yeah,
not bad. And what's your overall return? Well, you and your kids and your grandkids never have to work again. There's 3 billion in cash, and you've got lots of other interests because of your property and your this and your that and your other. I mean, you look on Company's House. That guy he's got his own server on the Company's House website.
You hear all these murmurings and rumours and just nonsense that's come out over the last few weeks, but you look at this Peter Charrington, who joined back in when did he join? 12th of March this year. You look at that guy's actual expertise, and he was the former chief executive officer of Citibank, and his speciality is corporate financing, high value takeover deals. So what do you think he's been brought in for?
Yeah, but he's not there to make the look place.
He's not there to be the CEO of a sports entertainment company. He is there working with the numbers.
And he will be wandering around mumbling whispering into Daniel Levy's ear. And what he's whispering are, for example, those 3 Goombas that we had in the training technical area. These guys are deadbeats. Nobody's going to want them. They don't end up at Colchester United. Just simply not the required standard for this division.
Oh, fuck off, H. Don't get them close to home for me. Fuck off. Just fuck off.
One of them's got an awfully nice beard, but yeah, I just don't think anything of these people. So hopefully they come in, and I mean, I've been saying this forever. Joked about Rose West managing our public relations.
But Stanley Fletcher will be happy.
There we go. There we go. One for the album, kids. But they need to. All of this, like I keep saying, they need to stop it. need to stop all the bad press. They really have made bungle after bungle after bungle, from shooting foxes when they were building the new stadium, having people arrested for things that weren't crimes, and get rid of that flag. Get that flag out of there.
Or the absolute balls up they made of the European Super League.
Yeah. They are EMI, the EMI of football. Every mistake imaginable. They really are. They don't leave a box of stupidity unchecked. They handle everything badly. Everything badly. You go on about women's football, which is making a huge loss, and then you have that flag. Honestly, that really gets me going. Women's rights have been eroded by these nut jobs.
If we manufactured cars, we would be Jaguar.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? The truth?
And do you know what? Jaguar sold 450 cars this year. Last year, they sold 20,000. That is a story of where people have said, we're not accepting this woke nonsense.
I'm just going to have a Bud Light and get behind the wheel of my Jag.
Yeah.
and then of course I'll be getting to the airport and jumping onto my Virgin jet.
I'm sorry, I can feel the levels of estrogen rising on this podcast right now. You
girlies. Oops, hello. Well, I tell you something. It may strike people as rather out of character, but if you don't respect and value women as a society, you're nothing. You know, you're absolutely nothing. And stealing rights from women is disgraceful. It has to stop. It absolutely has to stop.
The worst offender of that was I can't remember. Was it Karen Carney, who I generally think is a decent pundit. Actually, she's actually quite insightful. But for her to turn around and say that and Aluko as well, to turn around and say that women should have the same money as men and all this sort of thing. I know this is a completely different subject to what we normally talk about.
No. It's all part and parcel. It's all part and parcel because you get equality because you deserve it. I'm talking about, can I go and get my daughter to have a bra fitted, and will there be anybody with a male man wandering around in a dress? Get out of here. I don't live up a tree rubbing peanut butter into myself. I'm not crazy. Go away.
Oh, no.
Stop.
No. You've just given away what you do at weekends, mate. Come on, sort it out.
Look, I draw the curtains, right? And I don't disturb anybody. Got my little tree I got from the play centre, brought in, get the peanut butter out. I don't cause anybody no bother.
All I want to know is the peanut butter planet friendly? Is it planet friendly?
Well, it's smooth, not crunchy, since the incident. Right, gentlemen, we're coming up to the hour mark. Any more? Any more? Order.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted it's Frank, because I'll probably get. I'll be shot down for this in a couple of years' time when it all probably goes horribly tits up, but I hope it doesn't.
There are other people who were clambering for. Oh, I think we should go for Xavi. Why? Because his name's Xavi. It's another foreign manager with no understanding or experience in England, and it's fraught with danger. Why not go for somebody who knows?
Well, he's going to be another Ruben Amorim if he came to Spurs, and just after about 6 weeks say, "Yeah, this club's on fire." You don't need that. You need a guy who knows the division, which cannot be underestimated, and he's going to roll his sleeves up and actually be quite happy that he's there, because hopefully he can get some players he wants.
I think Thomas Frank might actually now, because I'm sure he will have people who are in the know doing their due diligence in the background, knowing all the things that we've been talking about is all going on.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll have found that all out. He must be thinking, yeah, this is the right time to come in at Spurs because I won't have to deal with that twat anymore.
Well,
that twat might be in charge.
That's got to be a massive selling point, hasn't it?
If you've got something about you want the opportunity to prove the world wrong. And we all hear these things about going into poisonous organizations, but if you've got confidence about yourself and if you believe in yourself, you will go to war with those people. And this is a guy who knows he has got a credible CV, and he's been around the block. He's coached at international level. So if you've got something about yourself, you can go in and know that you can demonstrate to the world you are this person we all believe. and it's just the Twitter noise and the social media noise that you get one or two idiots who then tries to create a movement, and we're not interested. We're adults who want to enjoy football. We don't want all these.
If they want to create a movement, I suggest they eat more fresh fruit.
Yeah.
or come out their basement.
Yeah. Have to try some fresh air and drinking water. You'll work wonders. I've been espousing the benefits of Frank for a long time. So I'm quite happy that I was a bit concerned when I heard about Marco Silva, because I just didn't think he was a right fit. I don't know why, but I didn't. I agree with you. I couldn't come up with any specifics over
the only two I wanted were Frank or Glasner. I'd have probably still preferred Glasner, but he's never going to come. So it's
no. I think
if they're never going to come, give it up for a bad job. That's always my advice.
Or persevere.
Right, folks. And on that note, we managed to get Rose West and Joseph Stalin into the show, which I'm personally very proud of. But that's it for now. So hopefully a new manager, hopefully a new bloody owner. Good luck. Keep it Tottenham.
Wow, we didn't